One. Hi, everyone. We're back. I'm Monique, and
I'm Cheryl.
we are the facilitators for the Sovereign Goddess Path.
Yes.
And we are coming together now to talk about the final, like, do we want to call it virtues or
Principles, guiding
principles of what it means to embark upon the Sovereign Goddess Path. And the final principle is freedom. Wow. So Cheryl, would you like to begin?
Yes. I will open the conversation.
Go ahead, girl, you got it.
Right. Okay. So we've been talking in the previous videos about, what it meant to be source reliant.
Yes.
And then how that allows us to become interdependent in the world. The necessity of it makes that whole. It's an organic, holistic experience. But the end result of that connection, the connection to being in that source experience, then interrelating that with humanity, our life, puts us in the choice point to be free. Source reliant, interdependent, and free. And in the free part of it, for me, it shows up for me in many ways. But freedom for me means that I get to really choose the perspective and tell the story that I want to hold and tell about every situation, every person, place, and situation in my life. And I get to choose to move myself in the broadest perspective of all, that's inclusive of all directions, right? Of all things that are happening energetically for me. Because this is a conversation about us being energetic beings and what that means from the feminine perspective, right? And how that works in harmony with that masculine. And so freedom for me is really being in my choices. I get to choose, and the basic choice I get to make on all subjects is how I want to view it. What is it tripping for me? And what does it mean for me to become free, to get off the hook? And in that conversation. And it's every conversation, right? Because there's so much that's going down in my individual world, but then how that gets mirrored to me in the collective world. And then there's just so much juicy perspectives floating around out there at this current moment. And so I don't find it stressful. I find every single opportunity as an invitation for me to get free. And I get to get free because I get to spin it and source it. And the priority for me in that decision always is, what would love do now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's freedom in that. And it may sound very loose, like, oh gosh, she's throwing that love word into the conversation. But no, there's all these rules we have in humanity. And then there is this essence of this broader energy, this energy of life.
Yeah.
That the language we all share around the world is that word love.
Yeah.
And when I'm sourcing out my freedom on any subject where I become free, is I get to choose and ask that question. What would love do now? And how do I have to grow? What has to grow inside of me? What has to shift inside of my mind, my heart, my body to align myself with what love would do now? And love is inclusive of all things.
Yes.
All things. It calls out nothing. Right? And so it sounds simple. Maybe it is simple, and when I'm sorting it out in my head, in my heart, and in my body, it isn't so simple, but I get to grow. And that's another choice. That's a choice point of freedom for me, is I get to grow. I get to expand. I get to decide, right, how I'll vibrate in this conversation.
That's so beautiful.
In this situation, right? My health, my relationships, my community, the world.
Right.
The struggles, all of it, the tensions that are constantly coursing through all things. You know, there's always these tension spots. I get to decide to be how I'm going to be in tension.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's in here or out there. And to me, that's freedom. That's freedom.
Thank you for that. That's very beautiful.
That's love. Okay.
So thank you, Cheryl. So freedom for me is the opportunity to really be true to myself. And that's an interesting thing in the experience of being source reliant. And then kind of asking myself, like, freedom almost comes before interdependence for me. Because there's source reliant, that's first. And then it's like, what do I create out of that source reliance? That's my power of freedom. Like, I'm going to take that source reliant energy, and then I'm going to create this with it. Like, my choice. How will I choose to use source energy? You know, there's some things that are pretty already determined on some level. I'm a woman, so how will I choose to express source energy in this woman's body? I'm what the culture calls a Black woman. So how will I take that cultural experience and express my freedom in it? And then interdependence comes in, like, okay, then how do I share that with all those that I come in contact with? How can I have this expression of interdependence? But the freedom part is the freedom to design myself as I desire. And what I have learned being a woman is that I think you said this, we're giving so many rules of this is how it's supposed to be. You know, these are the things that make womanhood right. These are the things that make being Black bad. These are and then it's like, well, I get the freedom to decide what my womanhood will be like, what my relating is going to show up as, how my parenting will be expressed. I'm going to choose this. No one else gets to choose for me. And so, and that evolves, that has changed. And the more I come into real experience of rigor and maturity, emotional rigor, like, is this mine? Is this feeling I'm having around what it means to be a woman, does it belong to me, or is this my mother's?
I love that. Yes.
Because my mother was very submissive to the men in her world, and felt empowered preparing meals and cleaning houses and hand washing clothes. Like, that was really what she got off on. That was really her natural makeup, even though that's what we say that women should do, or we have said that in the past, right? That's not really going on now, but in the 70s, that was a real thing. And that was what my mother did really easily. That's not true for me. Miss me with the dishes. Miss me with cooking meals. My parenting skills are interesting. You know, it's like, I have the freedom to design that in the way that works for me, and in the way that I can also serve my community and the people that I'm in service to. Yes. I'm with you. I'm just opening the door for one of my companions. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry about that. It's totally fine. Cheryl has, for those of you who are watching, Cheryl has beautiful dogs and a cat. We can't forget the queen of the kingdom. Yeah. But I love what you're saying. The
capacity as women to separate ourselves out from our legacy and to re-choose.
Yes.
Because we became so snow globed, right? We shook the snow globe that I know me as a woman, I rebelled.
Yeah.
I rebelled against some of the traditional ways that women could be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some things that I learned when I stopped rebelling. I learned that there's a lot of the traditional way a woman shows up is actually true for me.
Yes.
The essence of it is true for me.
Yeah.
But I did go through a phase as a woman, I was taught to fight, rebel against, and strive beyond where the woman is. And I lost touch with what was the essence, the true alchemy of my feminine energy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or to be able to even make a conscious choice to say, well, I tried that, that's not for me, but this is what it looks like for me. Yes, I love that. Thank you for bringing that piece up. Yes.
Of course. Yes. And that's what we're here to do. So that's what the freedom part is for me. And I love how it shows up for you. I love that. And so we get to invite every woman who's going to participate in this journey with us, who's going to say yes to this path, to take that on for yourself. Like, what are your experiences of freedom? You know, how does it express in your life and relationships to yourself, to your community, to your family, to partners, lovers, in your work environment? What does that show up as? Because the thing that I think, so I will say also, and before we go, is that freedom has been like the great call of my life, honestly. I remember possibly because of the Black experience in America, freedom has been like huge energetic momentum in my life. Like just listening to Martin Luther King say, "Let freedom ring," right? From the mountains to the seas, let freedom, like that's inside of my soul. It's inside of myself.
Yes.
But it's beyond race. It's a spiritual thing.
Yes. And so, so what you just said, and for me as a woman, a lot of the freedom that I've had to source out for myself was, you know, I inherited this legacy where women pitted each other against each other, right? There was jealousies and competition, and there was this, in my world, lots of times the competition and the jealousies and all these things between women created chaos in the world of men.
Yes.
And there was a whole way that I had to liberate myself from the play of jealousy, the deep play of jealousy, the deep play of competition, the deep way that in my story, I more often was abandoned by my feminine relationships and leaders and caretakers and whatever. I had a lot of pushback from and tension in that. And so for me, it was finding the conversation of freedom in that.
Yeah.
Knowing how to stop that cycle, knowing how that cycle, just as being a white woman, not only influenced my legacy, but it was influencing how it played out in the world as a whole.
Yes.
And how we drove ownership. We drove these things. We created them. We got underneath them and started to suffocate ourselves and how they were reflected back to us.
Yes. That is, I mean, it's, so this is what we're inviting women to come into this conversation.
Yes.
This is really profound, deep healing, energy shifting, life-changing work.
Yes.
So I am Monique Ruffin. And
I'm Cheryl Bourget.
And we are the facilitators of the Sovereign Goddess Path, interdependent, source reliant, interdependent, and free.
Free, yes. And so we invite you to join us. And I look forward to seeing you, right, in our classes and in our Facebook private group.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings.